to episode 22, or for those keeping track on iTunes, season 3, episode 3?
2.
3. It's 3. Yeah, because our first one was the little mini-sode, then we did Pulp Fiction last week, and now we are here cutting loose with Footloose.
Kicking off your Sunday shoes.
That's right. But before I forget, it's me. It's John. This is the Casual Movie Club podcast where we get to talk about movies. And by we, I mean me. And my good friend, Brian. Brian, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. What's happening, buddy?
Hey, man. It is another beautiful day in the man cave.
This is pretty man cave-ish.
My whole apartment's a man cave.
Yeah, it's pretty man cave-ish.
So we watched Footloose today from 1984. 4? Okay.
Yes, 1984.
Yes, and it was. I'm going to start this. I'm going to start this podcast off the way that I start a lot of them off with Brian. Did you like the movie?
Hated it. I hated it.
Really? I could kind of tell.
I didn't like the acting. I didn't like the plot. I didn't like the soundtrack.
Oh my God! You just wow.
It's all up and down. But see, the thing is, this movie wasn't made for me.
Okay.
Now let me just say that as much as I didn't like the soundtrack, I have danced to a lot of these songs at weddings. Some of these songs are wedding favorites.
Oh, yeah.
I'm married, and my wife and I and our respective families danced to Footloose
nice.
at our wedding.
Now,
and
was that, did you kind of come out to that song, or like how did that song, what role did that song play?
Oh, that was like one of the last songs of the night. Everybody was lubed up, warmed up, ready to dance, and the DJ put that song on. Everybody cut loose.
And I feel like with the way that you said you loved this movie so much, you kind of needed all the liquid courage you could get.
Yeah, I needed some liquid courage to get me through this. So I had never seen this before. I don't know if we mentioned this last week or not, but I knew about this movie. Like I said, my wife loves the soundtrack. She doesn't necessarily love the movie itself.
Oh, okay.
But she did warn me that it's an objectively not a good movie.
I could see that.
Well, now let's get into your sides of it. Yeah, I've kind of given the brief overview of my feelings on it.
Yeah.
I got the distinct impression that you thoroughly enjoyed it, and down.
I did. I really did. Now, I had seen this movie a number of times before, so this was not my first time watching it. I had also played in the pit for this movie for a small town theater company, because being a drummer, I've done a number of musical theater shows, so just playing in the band for it, so I have a lot of experience with the show. Is it a good movie? By typical standards, not necessarily.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. Because
Right.
Even though, like The Wraith, for example, is a great movie. Okay, let me rephrase that. The Wraith is a great movie to me. I enjoy it.
That's what I wanted to get at.
But it's not necessarily amazing cinema.
Right.
There's nothing earth-shattering about Footloose.
This movie's not winning any awards.
However, it was nominated for not one, but 2 Oscars. It was actually nominated both for Best Original Song by Kenny Loggins, Footloose.
I can see it.
And Let's Hear It for the Boy, which was written by Dean Pitchford. I almost said Pritchard. Dean Pitchfork. No, Pitchford. There we go. And Tom Snow, who wrote Let's Hear It for the Boy. So those 2 songs were actually nominated for Best Original Song for the Academy Awards.
And that makes sense.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, and interestingly enough, you asked me, or you said to me last week, you said, musicals are not really my genre. This isn't a musical.
I went into this thinking that it was a musical.
Right. It's not a musical. It's just a movie with a really good soundtrack. And I know you said you didn't care for the soundtrack, but it's a movie with a bunch of great songs, as the soundtrack, which folks then changed into a musical and turned it into a musical, which I could give or take it as a musical. I think it works much better as a movie with a great soundtrack instead of a Broadway musical.
Well, okay. Now I want to talk to you about that because I have seen movies before that had no real musical component to them. The one movie I'm thinking of in particular is Evil Dead.
Okay.
Seen that done as a musical, right?
Was it done as a musical as a joke?
Yeah, yes, tongue in cheek. The whole Evil Dead thing, the whole Evil Dead movie is it's campy horror.
Okay.
So the fact that people took this and turned it into a musical, but kept the same campy spirit of the film, it's all in line.
Right.
Now, let's define musical just for the sake of this conversation.
Okay.
Musical, to my understanding, is a movie or production, what have you, where the music is part of the story insofar as the characters are literally singing their parts.
Yes.
Okay.
That is exactly almost verbatim what I was going to say.
Okay.
As what a musical is, because at no point in this movie was anyone singing.
Not at all.
The background stuff. It was just songs that were featured in the movie.
Yeah, they would do, like, somebody would turn on a boom box, and then people would hear it and they would dance to it and interact with it.
Right.
Car stereo, somebody threw in a cassette tape and dance to it and blah 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 blah. But nowhere was anybody singing.
Right.
So okay,
So
I went in with the incorrect.
Right. And what's interesting is that IMDb classifies this as 3 genres: drama, music, and romance. So it classifies this as a music movie, but I don't know if let me look up something else here, because I wonder if...
Well, look up West Side Story. West Side Story is a legit musical.
Oh yeah, I just put in Rent, but okay. So I put Rent in the 2005 movie, drama, musical, romance. So they do separate music and musical.
Okay, so that if we're going by IMDb standards, at the minimum, they're saying that this is a music-centric movie,
right?
Not necessarily a musical,
right? What other? Can you think of any other movies that might be music-centered but not musical?
Flashdance.
Yeah. See, because I just clicked on the genre and Bohemian Rhapsody came up as number 1.
Oh wait! I want to do some guesses.
Okay.
Showgirls.
Let's see. How many? It doesn't say how many. Oh, there's 285,496 titles.
Oh well, let's just look at the top 10.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm just gonna name these I'll name the top 20. So.
Let's do the top 10. 20's a lot.
Fine. Or top 15. We'll split in the middle. Bohemian Rhapsody number 1. Green Book number 2.
Green Book.
Rocket Man number 3.
Makes sense.
The Dirt number 4. A Star is Born number 5. See, to me, wouldn't A Star is Born be musical?
No, no. Because the characters aren't singing the plot.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Number 6, Fosse Verdon. 7, Guava Island. 8, Empire. 9 is Baby Driver. 10 is Yesterday. Glee at 11. Oh, some of these are TV.
Are these top rated?
I don't know. I think it's just
order?
I don't know. Yeah, it's sorted by popularity.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess top rated. 8 Mile, Coco, Whiplash, which we definitely need to do on this podcast.
We talked about that.
Whiplash is a terrific movie.
No Singing in the Rain?
I don't see it on the top 20.
No Swing Time?
Nope. Pitch Perfect is in here. School of Rock. That's another good one. Let's see. Coyote Ugly, Dirty Dancing.
Dirty Dancing, yes.
That's a good one, too. Walk the Line, Blues Brothers, not 2000. Wedding Singer, Burlesque. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of movies that I guess they consider music as sort of the genre of the.
Now that you're naming these off, it makes it's clear. It's clear now what's a music-centric movie versus a musical. And a lot of those movies that you named off, I had seen.
And did you like those better than Footloose?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and interestingly enough, Footloose is ranked as 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb with 63,105 votes.
Okay.
So it's definitely in the top half of the votes, but so you said you didn't care for the acting, you didn't care for the sound, you pretty much didn't care for anything we normally rate movies on, right?
Well, we can get into that.
Yeah.
What were your highlights? Like what makes you like this movie?
I really love the soundtrack, actually. I really like the soundtrack because it's just some really great danceable 80s songs.
Okay.
And it's kind of funny. I'm kind of thinking about this at the same time. I am not a dancer by any means. I am not light on my feet. I have rhythm because I'm a drummer, but I've always been the kind that stays on the sidelines and everything, but I always see people dancing, and at one point, maybe if I have the fortunate experience to get married, maybe I'll finally dance at my own wedding or something. I'll need lots of alcohol to do that. But
you better dance at your wedding.
Yeah, I know. I have a ways to go before I get there, but I've always been very kind of scared of dancing. Just self-conscious and that whole thing. But watching this movie kind of gives me a little bit of like hey, it's not that bad.
It's very hopeful in that regard.
Yeah, and so I really like that. I like the soundtrack. The kind of small town aspect of it is so, I don't want to say overdone, but there's so many movies that feature the whole someone new comes into a small town and changes shit up.
Yeah.
Because like another movie that comes to mind is To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. I don't know if you've seen that. It's another one.
Never heard of it.
Oh, it's such a fun movie. But that whole like trope of someone coming into a small town, changing shit up and making things for the better, and then the movie's over. Like that very big picture general thing is so done. It's a major plot point of so many movies.
It is, and I took great issue with this plot and its details, but I wanted to talk to you.
It is based on a true story.
And a bit more, yeah, you mentioned that, and I feel like I had heard that somewhere before, but yeah, I'd be interested in exploring that a bit more. But before we do that, you mentioned the trope of stranger outsider coming in, changing the town for the better.
Yeah.
He's cool right off the bat, and half the town likes him, half the town hates him, blah, 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 blah. So this is definitely a trope. This is something that we've seen in movies, TV shows before.
Yeah.
However, this movie came out in the early half of 84, if I'm not mistaken.
February of 84, yeah.
Yeah. How many movies, media, TV shows have we seen before this? Now, I'm not saying Footloose is the first movie form of entertainment to do this, but I'm saying how many more can you think of that happened before Footloose?
I don't know. I can't think of anything that came out earlier than Footloose other than like Saturday Night Fever.
That Saturday Night Fever, which I've seen a few times, not enough to remember
right.
the main plot points. But is he an outsider? I've always thought he was just from New York, and he just
right. He's just from New York.
Well, he's an outsider in the sense that I'm bursting onto the scene. This is me. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's true.
He's not like a real outsider. He's not from somewhere different, new. He's not a stranger.
Yeah, and Saturday Night Fever came out in 1977, so that's a couple of years before. Before Footloose.
I think New York has a different. The fact that Kevin Bacon, Ren, in the context of the movie Footloose,
right?
He's from Chicago. He comes into Indiana or wherever they are.
Yeah.
And it's literally a farm town. That's Not a lot going on. The closest city is probably Chicago, which is miles and miles away. So Ren is literally an outsider coming in and shaking things up.
Right.
If we're gonna run with Saturday Night Fever, I think it's a
little different.
It's a little different,
Yeah.
especially because it's New York. There are millions of people that live in New York. It's hard to.
Yeah, I get that.
It's hard to be an outsider in New York unless you're talking about a scene, which disco was definitely a scene.
Right. And you're more likely to see the effect of an outsider in a small town than you are in a place like New York. Mm-hmm. You know, because if an outsider comes into New York, they're going to blend right in and they're going to get absorbed into, you know, all that is New York. Whereas when someone like Ren comes into, Beaumont, which is a tiny town, he's going to have a lot more of an impact because there's so much fewer people there. There's far fewer people there.
So what I'm doing is, without doing internet research, just going off.
We don't do that.
We don't fact check. We don't research. We just shoot from the hip.
That's right.
We just shoot from the hip.
Keep it casual.
Keep it casual. Just keep it casual.
Keep it casual.
But what I'm doing is I'm arguing for the uniqueness of this because based off of what I know of pop culture, things that TV shows, movies, other things that I've consumed entertainment wise, I can't really think of anything earlier than Footloose that has really done this, except for Flashdance. And I don't know when was Flashdance. We'll kind of stretch the rules a bit.
83.
83.
Mm-hmm.
Have you?
I have not seen it.
I have not seen it. Give me a brief synopsis.
A Pittsburgh woman with 2 jobs as a welder and an exotic dancer wants to get into ballet school.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to do this on our podcast.
I would love to. Maybe not next, but let's.
No, we got a good idea for what we're doing next, which we'll talk about that later.
Let's put Flashdance in our back pocket.
Because what a feeling.
Well, so I mentioned Showgirls earlier. Showgirls is another example of an outsider coming in and kind of shaking things up.
Yeah. I almost said burlesque, but that's the opposite because that's someone from a small town going to a big city.
City.
That's irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant.
You don't think so?
It's the trope stands. I think an outsider coming in.
Yeah.
Shaking up the scene, changing it for the better.
That's true. And you seen Burlesque?
I have seen Burlesque.
It's a great movie.
I watch it ironically.
Would you pick that over Footloose as your Desert Island movie?
Yes. My Desert Island movie?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's fair. So I mean, kind of getting back to the original question you asked me, you know, why I like the movie. I mean, I like it because of its, kind of showing you how fun dancing can be. I really like the soundtrack, and I think those are the only 2 things that I really like about the movie. I mean, the plot is. I don't like the plot, but the funny thing is it's loose, according to IMDb, it's loosely based on events that took place in an actual town called Elmore City, Oklahoma in 1978. Mm-hmm. They had banned dancing for almost 90 years until a group of high school teenagers challenged it.
90 years?
90 years.
What the fuck?
Yeah, 90 years. But I mean, I think there's that one scene in Footloose where Ren kind of makes a really compelling argument for why dancing should be allowed. You know?
Yeah, he uses the Bible against the Reverend and the school board. Well,
yeah, there was the city council
the city
or something
council,
or whatever.
The city council is what it is. But banning dance. So for this film, it was explained. Now, please correct me if I'm confusing this or muddying some details. But the Reverend Shaw convinced the city council to ban dancing because his son and other friends were drinking, driving, and dancing. Right. And the dancing corrupted them.
Well, we don't know. They don't really go into a ton of details as to what happened.
They don't.
All they say is that Reverend lost his son, and I think there was a couple of other deaths and everything because of a party that these kids were at. and they decided that, oh, well, because these things happened, we're going to ban dancing and, whatever else to keep our kids safe.
His argument was dancing begets drinking, begets drugs and partying and the corruption of the soul. And I just don't see the correlation.
No, there isn't one.
It's young kids who are experimenting with drugs and alcohol, but
right.
I mean, you just got to be better parents at that point, or
right. But also, Reverend Shaw makes a good point when he remember during that sort of right before they showed the kids kind of preparing for the prom. Shaw was up on the altar and he was talking about how how are our kids going to become trustworthy if we don't trust them?
Yeah,
or if we don't let go to allow them to earn our trust. So that was a key point.
It was a key point, but it took this outsider kid quoting scripture to him for him to change his mind.
Right, because he was the preacher, and that was the only thing that would give him.
Shouldn't you know that already?
Perspective. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you completely. I mean, but again, I'm not a preacher, so I can't speak for how much of the scripture they should know by heart. But I agree with you. If someone's been in a profession for a long time that's all centered around one book, I would think they would know that book pretty well.
The whole thing with burning books, too, was just
that was
crazy.
Weird.
It was crazy. It's like they had a bunch of subplots that didn't really go anywhere either. Like, there's this one dude with the bow tie. I don't even know his name. His name's not even worth remembering.
Who cares? He's an asshole.
Yeah. He was burning books for some reason. They were saying Slaughterhouse 5 was corrupting the children.
I thought he looked like
Kurt
Kevin
Vonnegut.
Kline, so I just called him Kevin Kline.
He looked like...
He definitely looked like Kevin Kline.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But,
we'll call him Kevin Kline.
But still, though, like burning books? Like, what? This is 1984. This is America.
Right.
Like, what are you burning books for?
Yeah, this isn't the 1870s.
What's that going to help? If anything, ship the books away. Donate them to a library 2, 4, 5 towns over.
Right, and here's the other question I have. Isn't this kind of reminds me of the whole, like a mother telling their toddler, don't touch the hot stove. What's the first thing the toddler's going to want to do is touch the hot stove.
Touch the hot stove?
To see what the deal is with that. So if they're burning all these books, what's to say these kids aren't going to want to know what was in those books and try to get their hands on those books through some other means?
So that's
right?
Yeah. So that's the thing. When the books are being burned, the Reverend shows up and he's like, "What are you doing? Why are you burning books? The devil's not in the books. The devil's in our hearts. Go home, judge yourselves." And I mean, that's a great message and all, but practice what you preach, man. Like, this guy is just...
right.
He's got blinders on and it doesn't make any sense. You're an adult man. He looked to be at least in his 40s, 50s.
Yeah, I'd say that. But I think the timing of that scene was important, because when that scene happened, I think that was where we started to kind of see the Reverend kind of opening up a little bit, or kind of, realizing what he needs to do. I think if that scene happened earlier in the movie, it wouldn't have been as impactful. Because if you think about it, that happened more than halfway through the movie, and this is where we started to see, after this is when we started to see the Reverend kind of sort of taking a step back and reevaluating things a little bit, if you will.
It was just real flimsy.
Yeah.
To me,
there was a good bit of that in the whole movie.
Yeah. Oh man, it was.
You love this movie.
You banned dancing because your kid got into a drunk driving accident. Ban alcohol. Like you're the city council. Pass tax laws and make it a dry county. There are plenty of places in the United States that ban liquor.
Right.
Still.
Right.
So do that. Don't
Right.
ban. What does dancing have to do with anything?
Right. Well, that, and also, why couldn't they? I mean, if
What's the punishment if I'm caught dancing? What's the what is the punishment to that? Am I getting a $25 ticket?
Yeah.
Am I spending the night in jail? Am I going before a judge for this?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because is dancing a misdemeanor? Is it a felony? Like what is the what are the legal ramifications to being caught dancing? That's a great question.
And what dancing and how old? Like, I saw a bunch of little children in this movie just dancing around, hopping around. Like, at what point is dancing? Is it two-step? How long can I be doing the two-step before it's considered legit dancing?
Right, exactly. Or if you're having to sidestep around something to avoid tripping, is that dancing or is that just moving around an object?
Sometimes if I trip over something, lose my balance, I'll do a little dance step to catch my balance again look smooth doing it.
Oh, that's right.
And am I getting a ticket? Do I need to go before the judge?
Yeah, apparently you have to.
Put me in cuffs.
Yeah, apparently.
Because I've got style.
Right, and also, you ban dancing. How long is that going to be effective? Because eventually somebody's going to be like, no, fuck this. I'm going to dance anyway. And you get guys like Ren that come into his town like this, and he's like, we got to dance. We're going to do this, and no matter what, something like that just isn't going to last.
Some eccentric rich person, a conscientious objector maybe, just goes to town square and just dances it up and pays whatever ticket, pays whatever dues, and then just goes right back out and dances just over and over.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. Like,
right.
I can't wrap my mind around how ridiculous this law is.
Right. I agree with you.
And how can they sustain it?
I agree with you. And the thing is, I mean, I know I've said this before, but it's based on events that took place in an actual town. So it's partially based on a true story.
And it lasted for 90 years. So there is a generation that potentially grew up in this town, never dancing a single step. What do you do at weddings?
Right.
You just sit around and or did you get a permit for dancing?
Or what happens if you leave this town and you go someplace else where dancing is not frowned upon? I mean,
it's ridiculous. I hate this. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, if this wasn't based on actual events, this would be a stupid plot for a movie.
It's so crazy.
But maybe it's stupid anyway.
It's so crazy to me.
I agree.
I mean, I know you agree, but you still like the movie.
I do. But I like the movie. I don't necessarily like the movie for the plot. In fact, no, I don't like the movie for the plot. I like the movie for other things, but not the plot.
Okay. Let's get in. Do you want to start rating this and getting into it?
I would love to.
Okay. Well, last week we discussed doing a pre-scoring session and then guessing what the other would rate the film. So why don't we start off by going over what the categories are, and then we'll go into, I guess, an exchange of what we think the others' scores are. Okay,
so the categories that we have are as follows. The acting. So how well did the actors convey the story? And by the way, before we even go any further, you can also look at our ratings on our website, and you can see full descriptions of the criteria that we use. You go to casualmovieclub.com, click on the leaderboard, and you can see all that stuff there. So we're going to be reviewing things like the acting, how well the actors conveyed the story, how believable were they? Did it feel like we were watching a bunch of actors doing a job, or did it feel like we were watching actual people going through something there? How was the quality of the writing of the script? How well was that dialogue written? The presentation, the editing, and kind of visual effects usage, was it too much? Was it not enough? How was the kind of visual presentation of the movie? And then there was the music and sound. sort of all the goodies for your ears, as I like to say. The soundtrack as a whole, how did the movie sound? How were your ears enjoying the experience? And then uniqueness, has this movie been done before? Is this something that we've seen from other places before? Have we seen this type of movie done before, or is this truly unique? And then there's the engagement factor. How likely are you to stay awake, stay engaged, stay glued to the screen during this movie? Are you going to be on your phone pretty much the whole time, or are you going to be glued to the screen, just dying to know what happens next? So all that being said, Brian, why don't we start with you? So are you going to guess mine, or am I going to guess yours, or how does this work?
I'm going to guess what your score is, and then you tell me what your score really is and your justification for it.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. So I will let you start. What did you think I am going to rate the acting as?
Based off of our conversation thus far, I know that you're not really into the plot. You're more into the soundtrack. But the acting doesn't offend you based off of our conversation. So I'm going to put your acting score, I'm going to say 3.5. You have this in your head already, right? You have this written down?
Okay. Yeah, I have it in my head.
I'm going to say 3.5 for you, acting.
Okay. So you are correct. 3.5 because I really don't have anything bad to say about it. But there was nothing that sort of blew me away. There was nothing that blew me away about it. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was fine. In fact, I think I'm going to revise that a tiny bit. I'm going to say 3.75, just a tiny bit more, simply because of the fact that the dancing was very good. And I know the actors were the ones that had to do that dancing. So I'm going to go 3.75 on the acting.
Okay. So based off of our conversation thus far, what do you think I would score the acting? How do you think I would score the acting?
Well, based on how you talked about not liking this movie at all, I also don't feel like you said you hated the movie, so I don't know that you're going to give the acting a 1, but I also don't feel like you're going to give the acting anything more than like a 3. So I'm kind of thinking you're probably in the like 2.5 to 3 range of acting.
Well, you got me on 3.
3? Okay.
I gave it a 3. The delivery was not good, but I didn't hate it. It was just, people don't act like that in real life.
Well, the thing is, this was 1984.
This is 84,
so,
right?
Like, I was 3 years old in 1984.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how teenagers were acting in 1984.
I don't either. They were walking around smoking and things, and they were getting beers from the bar,
right,
one state over, which was crazy to me. That's
right,
but it was definitely not realistic. So, but it wasn't horrible. I've seen worse performances, so I'll give the acting a 3.
Okay, and
well done.
Thank you. Well, continuing on with this, so script. I definitely, I'm thinking that your sort of major objections to the sort of the law and the ban on dancing and just the dialogue and everything, and the fact that people didn't talk that way, I'm kind of thinking you didn't give a script a good rating. So I'm going to say you probably gave the script like a 2 or a 2.5, maybe.
2 is right on the money. Yeah. All of it was just flimsy and weak. The portions where I forget the girl's name, the lead girl, Lori is the actress. Whatever.
I forget her name too.
When she gets in fights with her dad, and I didn't like any of it, man. She got beat up, and I like the fact that she fought back, but I don't know, man. It was weak. It just felt weak to me.
Okay.
When you told me that, how do I say this? So they made this movie around the soundtrack. Is that how I'm understanding your description of this?
I don't know if one had anything to do with the other. I think it just happened that it was a good marriage of this movie and a good group of songs. I don't know if one came about before the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well,
because it wasn't a musical. It's definitely not a musical. So
right,
they didn't sing the songs. The songs were not written as part of the story. But I think based on the fact that this became a musical and became a Broadway show, I think it was just a good selection of songs by the music supervisor on the crew.
Well, the Let's Hear It for the Boy and Footloose were they were nominated for Oscars.
Right.
Were they not written for this film?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't done the internet research to determine that. I would think that they were, because that's why they would be nominated.
Same.
Yeah, I would think that was why they were nominated. But you got other songs like "Holding Out for a Hero." And then I'm trying to think of that's the only other one that comes to mind. I know there's a few other ones. There's like "Heaven Help Us." There's God, I can't remember. I mean, those are the only ones that come to mind. But again, I've played the show, like I've played in the band for the show. So I mean, those are the only songs that come to mind as being kind of standing out from the show. Okay. Everything else seemed like it might have been just kind of filler.
Well, two for the script is right on for me, and it's basically because whether it has been or not, the story feels flimsy, and it feels like that this movie was written around this soundtrack. Now, interesting. Granted, it wasn't.
Right.
But it feels,
as far as we know, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It may have been, but I don't think it was.
I don't think it is either. Yeah. But it just, this script has that feel to it. It just, right. Yeah. So I give it 2. So
okay. So what do you think I gave the script?
I don't think you gave it a much better score than I did. I would have you at maybe a 3.5 at the most for the script, because you're more into the song. You like the dancing. But everything else is just, you either don't care about it, or it's just I don't know, it's inconsequential. So I would put you at a 3.5 for script.
Close.
3? Is it 3?
It's 3.
It's 3?
Yeah. It's 3, because I had nothing bad to say about it. It didn't blow me out of the water, and also didn't completely hate it. So 3 is just kind of literally right in the middle.
Okay.
So I'm going for a 3 on script, because it, to use a quote that you used before, it didn't offend me.
Yeah.
There was nothing about it that I hated. It just wasn't, nothing blew me out of the water, and the plot was, I think flimsy is a good way to describe it, but it's also loosely based on true events. So they had to work with what they had to work with.
Sure.
So now moving on, presentation. What did you think I gave it for presentation, editing and visual effects usage, and visual presentation?
Well, I think that you liked it. I think you liked it a lot. I would imagine that you would think that it was very well put together. So I would put your presentation score at a 4.
And that would be accurate.
Really? Right on the money?
Right on the money. I was actually going to give it a 4, because I really did like the camera work was great. I thought it was nice how the shots were composed very well. I really liked how they shot his Ren's kind of dance scene, where he went, he kind of had to blow off steam, and he went to that warehouse and just kind of danced around. Like, I thought that was kind of shot pretty cool. So I really I enjoyed the presentation aspect of it. So yeah, 4 is pretty much where I was going to put it at.
Okay.
Now I got to figure out what you were going to put the presentation at, because you didn't really talk about this very much.
I did not. For a good reason.
Because you want to make it hard for me.
I do.
I haven't heard you mention anything overly bad about the presentation, so I'm going to stay away from the low numbers. I didn't hear you mention anything about seeing things that were grotesquely overdone as far as visual effects or anything like that. I'm going to say that your presentation was probably like 3.5.
Well, the prom scene at the end, I didn't like it. it was too much choreography, too much glitter. But then again, that's the point of this. That's the
Too
point.
much choreography. I mean, the movie's about dancing. For crying out loud.
I know. That's the point of this movie, and that's the point of this movie. And
Right.
back to what you mentioned earlier, where Ren had to blow off steam,
Right.
and drives in and dances all around the factory. Again, contrived. Didn't like it. Thought it was shoehorned in. However, the presentation, I thought it was well put together.
Yeah.
I can't say anything bad about the editing.
Yep.
The visuals all fit in perfectly with the theme of the movie, the story that they were going for.
Yep.
I gave it a 4.
Cool.
I begrudgingly gave it a 4. But I respect a good presentation when it's shown to me.
Okay, and that's cool. I like that. So this is going to be another tough one for me because you said you did not like the music and sound. You did not like the soundtrack. I mean, I don't know, because this is the first time we're doing this type of format. Am I allowed to ask you what you didn't like about the soundtrack, or am I just supposed to base my guess on what I know already?
I mean, I guess if you ask questions of me and I answer them, then that'll give you
Some ammo.
Yeah, that'll give you some ammo. So
Yeah.
I think you just need to just base it off the conversation we've had already.
Yeah. I don't know. For music and sound, for some reason I'm coming up with either a 2.5 or like a 3. You know, because I don't feel like you want to. I don't feel like you want to take points off for it. Nothing came across like you hated it to the fact that it ruined the movie for you.
Yeah.
It just seemed like it didn't help at all.
Right.
So I'm gonna guess your music and sound was 3.
Man, you got me. You got my number. All so far, you've got me. Yeah. So it was definitely a 3. I don't like Kenny Loggins. I don't like. I really don't. Danger Zone is probably the only song I like of his. But then again, I've danced to a ton of Kenny Loggins songs at various points in my life.
Yeah.
One of the most important days of my life, my wedding.
You can't escape Kenny Loggins. Man.
You can't escape a good song, a good danceable song.
Right.
I was made in the 80s. I'm an 80s baby.
Same here.
Hair metal. I grew up listening to hair metal. I grew out of hair metal. So maybe my age is I don't know. My tastes have changed throughout the years.
And that's fair.
I used to like Quiet Riot.
Mm-hmm.
I used to like a lot of Motley Crue and OG Guns N' Roses, but you know, it's just not me anymore.
And that's fine.
But for the sake of the movie, it fit, but I didn't like it all that much, so it doesn't get more than a 3 from me.
And that's fair. So what do you think I gave the music and sound?
4. I can see you giving it higher than a 4, but I'm gonna go with 4 even, just based off of your relationship with the music, your relationship with the movie itself.
Yep.
I would put you at a 4 even.
And you would be correct, because there are few songs in there that I really can't stand. So one of them is Almost Paradise. I can't stand that song. I also can't stand I don't know the name of the song. I think it's Heaven Help Us. It's the song that's playing when they are when they're kind of cleaning up the warehouse before the prom.
Oh, right.
Fucking hate that song. So points off for that for sure. But other than that, I love the soundtrack, so I was going to give it a 4.
Okay.
I wasn't even thinking about going lower. So you're dead on there. Uniqueness. What do you think I gave it for uniqueness?
Well, I don't know if you would have given it a high score before our conversation earlier. So I think uniqueness is going to be, for you, probably a 3.5, 3.75. Man, that might be a little high.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking 3
Okay.
for uniqueness, just because, utilizing that trope of, someone coming in, changing shit up and whatever. I mean, again, I don't know what other movies were out there, but I feel like it's definitely not the first movie that's done that.
It's not, no.
You know what, though? You know what? Now that I'm kind of thinking about it, I'm going to go 3.5 because this one sort of centered around dancing. And apart from Saturday Night Fever, which wasn't really the same exact thing, it does kind of sit in its own place a little bit. So, I'm not going to go as high as a 4. I'm going to stick it right in that 3.5 range.
And this is all our opinion, all based off of our memory, all the things that we've gone through pop culture. So my experiences, my pop culture things that I've consumed are going to be different than yours.
Exactly. And to that end, I kind of know already where you stand on your uniqueness. It's funny because I'm kind of thinking you were in the 1s a little bit, but I'm probably going to go with a 2 for uniqueness.
Wow. Okay.
Based on what you had said before.
Yeah. Well, it's the trope is what we focused on, the outsider coming in and changing things up and blah, 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 blah. That's been done before. But the dancing aspect of this, other than Saturday Night Fever and Flashdance,
right?
Which I'm familiar with Flashdance, as we talked about earlier, but I've never seen Flashdance.
Right.
But I think this movie is, barring those 2 other examples, I would put... Go ahead.
When did Dirty Dancing come out? That was much later, right?
Oh, that was 80s.
Okay.
Well,
this is 84. So
84.
When Dirty Dancing was what, 88, 89?
I don't know.
Okay.
Let's look that up real quick.
All right. Let me
just do a quick internet search.
87.
87.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 3 years later.
3 years. Okay.
Okay.
Well, so my uniqueness based off of that is, I would put it at 3.5.
Okay.
Just because of everything we just talked about.
Okay. And then the final category is engagement factor. And a good indicator to me is when we're watching a movie is kind of how many times you pick up your phone. I noticed you were on your phone and your watch quite a few times, so I could tell that you were kind of zoning in and out of this. And, I get that, but I'm going to say your engagement factor was... I think you were still mildly curious about some things in the movie, so I'm not going to say you completely checked out, but I know you were not completely glued to the screen. So I'm going to say your engagement factor was a flat 3.
God damn, dude. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah?
That's it. You're spot on with me being curious.
Yeah.
But there is just points in the movie where just like, I know what's happening. They're dancing. Right. I'm not interested.
Yeah. Like when he does his whole warehouse thing, that's like 2.5 minutes. You can do something else. Cause if you don't care about the dancing element of it, then there's 2.5 minutes. You can check your phone or post something on Twitter or whatever.
Yeah. So that. 3 even.
Okay.
Yeah. You got me.
All right. So now I have a feeling you're guessing my engagement factor is going to be more difficult because I had seen it a number of times. So, full disclosure, I picked up my phone a few times during the movie, but not because I was not engaged.
And I noticed that. Yeah. And it's difficult to discuss engagement because the more you've seen something, you could argue that engagement factor will go down,
right,
because you've seen it before.
Right.
I think we talked about this when we watched Interstellar. I think your engagement factor is going to be a 3 also, just because you've seen it so many times. I could see you putting this on in the background and just kind of going about your day. Mm-hmm. This is more... Because of the strong soundtrack, this was a movie that you could listen to as easily as you could watch it. So I would put you at a 3.
Okay. So you're almost there. You're not quite there on me. My engagement factor is going to be a little higher on this simply because I really enjoy watching the dancing elements of it. I like the montages, especially. I really like the montage when I forget the guy's name. I almost want to call him Red, but I know his name's not Red. The
Wren, like a bird.
No, not Ren. the guy with the cowboy hat that insults him at first, and then they become like really good friends, and he teaches him how to dance.
Oh, that
Willard.
guy's...
Yeah,
Willard,
Willard.
yeah.
When Willard is kind of doing his little dance off and performing, like I love those little montages. I think they're fun. I'm not going to go so high as a 4, but engagement factor for me is going to be like 3.6. Like it's something where I'm going to watch it. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to look at certain things, but yeah, I can tune in and out simply because I've seen the movie a number of times.
Okay.
So, but pretty close on that.
Yeah. What did you think of this little game?
In all honesty, I didn't like it.
No?
No.
It does eat up a lot more time than...
Yeah, and that's not my issue with it. My issue with it is I think it's, I think it makes it a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot more difficult to try to figure out what your numbers are, especially in movies that I know you've never seen, or if there's a movie that I've never seen. I mean, maybe actually this might be a good question to throw to the listeners out there. What do you guys think of this? Do you like this style where I kind of guess Brian's numbers and Brian guesses my numbers? Do you like this, or do you rather we just kind of do it the way we've been, where we just sort of rate it on the fly and that sort of thing? So let us know. Reach out to us on Twitter and Instagram at Casual Movie Club. You can also email us casualmovieclub@hotmail.com. You can go to our website, casualmovieclub.com. That has all of the goodies on our website, like links to the different platforms that we're on, even merch, and you can show your support for your favorite movie podcast by getting a t-shirt or phone case or notebook or anything like that. Or you can even show your monetary support if you really love us and you want to help us keep our podcast hosted and up and running and keep the lights on. You can become patrons on our Patreon account. So all of that is available at casualmovieclub.com. And you can even call us or text us. And even though this is the 22nd episode of doing this, I can never remember that silly number. But Brian is really good at remembering it. So what's that number?
It's 402-882-2742. That's 402-882-2742. You can call, leave a voicemail, or send us a text message, and we'll respond maybe a little later.
That's right, and we will. And for those that are concerned, it is not a live number. It's a Google Voice number, so you can send us text messages. You can leave us a voicemail. It will not ring to us directly, so we're not going to pick up and go, "Hey, you're on the air." It's unless we set that up with you in advance. But I know some folks are not keen on doing that, so feel free to utilize that number. Reach out to us. Let us know, what do you like as far as our our method for rating things. So that being the case, the numbers are in, ladies and gentlemen. And let's see where Footloose is going to rank. Before I tell you the final numbers, Brian, where do you think it's going to rank?
Oh, I think it's going to be... I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
I'm gonna put it below Raging Bull.
I'm still waiting for the leaderboard to load.
Maybe... Oh, that's a tough call.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. So leaderboard's coming up. So you think it's going to be... Okay.
I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle. Maybe around Star Wars. Maybe around The Wrestler.
Interesting. So you're thinking it's going to be up there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be in the middle.
Okay. All right. Well, the numbers are in, and they go a little something like this. Acting, 3.38. Script, 2.5. Presentation, 4. Music and sound, 3.5. Uniqueness, 3.5. Engagement factor, 3.3. For a total average of 3.36.
Oh!
Which actually puts this right above Wild Wild West.
I agree with that.
So I do too. It puts it above Wild West and below the original 1966 Batman, which beat it out by 0.3 of a point.
Okay.
Which I find very interesting. But I think between Batman with Adam West and Footloose, I would probably pick Batman.
I would pick Batman every time.
Yeah. And while we're on the subject of picking things, I think it's a good time to talk about picking our next movie.
So how do
Which, full disclosure, We've already done that.
We picked it offline already.
Right.
Well, so do you want to do just one of the movies or two of the movies?
I think we'll just do one.
Or just do one of them?
Yeah. And maybe we'll do the sequel later on, because that might be something fun, because there's a few movies on our list that we've done that have sequels. Die Hard's got a sequel. Speed has a sequel. Let's see, Star Wars, obviously. There's the whole, Star Wars Legacy. I think Dennis the Menace is a sequel, I believe.
You know what I think would be interesting?
What?
For us to do a sequel without doing the original first.
Ooh.
And
that could be interesting.
I think that would depend heavily on the sequel itself.
Yes. So we want you guys to chime in on this. What sequel would you like to see us do before we do the original? Tweet us at Casual Movie Club and tell us your opinions.
So what is the OG movie that we're doing next time?
Well, if you look at the movies that we've done, we've covered quite a few genres. We've covered comedy, we've covered romance, we've covered some music-related movies, but there's one genre that we're missing.
Well, we've done. Yes, there is one.
There's
genre.
one big one that we're missing.
It's one big one.
One glaringly big one.
Is it horror?
It is horror.
Is it horrific?
Yes. So, what better way to combine a horror movie and a bad movie? Because there's so many bad horror movies out there.
You think this movie we're gonna do is bad?
Okay. Well, maybe that's speaking too soon. But
I don't know. I don't know.
We are going to.
We're gonna join together.
Right. We're gonna. We're going to join together, and we're going to take our opinions and merge them.
We're gonna sew them together, sew them up,
right?
Make them one.
Right, we're gonna make them one, and we're gonna watch as this one joined opinion kind of moves around like it has a number of legs,
like a centipede.
Right. We're talking about the human centipede. So next week we will be doing the Human Centipede Part 1. Mm-hmm. And both Brian and I have seen this movie already, but we are going to watch it again together for the purpose of the podcast. We're going to record an episode all about the Human Centipede. What do they call it? Is it book 1 or what's the...
It's just called Human...
Session 1. Because they call it like... It's like
the second. I think you're thinking of the second one. That's called the second sequence or something like that.
First sequence, yeah. Human Centipede first sequence. So we're going to be doing the first Human Centipede now, and I don't want to get too far ahead of that, but I don't know about you, Brian, but those movies don't affect me that much.
No, not really.
They're really not that bad because they're works of fiction.
They are, but I've seen a lot of horror movies that really get to me.
Yeah, I hear you, and we're certainly going to talk more about this next week. But
I'm a more sensitive soul than I care to admit sometimes,
and that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I can get a little squeamish.
Well, on that note, we are going to wish you guys an excellent week. And for those who have not figured it out yet, we are releasing on Thursdays now because if you are a member of our Patreon account, our Patreon page, you can get access to our podcast a day early. So check that out. Go to casualmovieclub.com, click on Patreon at the top, and you can see all the different tiers that we have for your support, which we appreciate. We also talked about that in episode 2020, right? Not the one before this one, but the one before that.
Yes.
We talked about Patreon a little bit, so you can listen to that if you're curious about joining the club, literally. But all are welcome in the Casual Movie Club. We appreciate you guys being a part of us every week, and we will see you next time.
See ya.